This is the 14th day of December, 2010. We're going to take up we're going to hold, because my colleagues are in the building, but they're getting here. We're going to hold 1 and 2 for right now. 3, 4 we're going to hold. Let's talk about item number 6.
Item number 6 is a CAO report relative to final plans and specifications for phases 1A and 1B of the Manchester Junior Arts Vision Theater project.
Good morning, Council Member Bernice Hollins, Office of the CAO, representing the LA for Kids Steering Committee. On this item, the Steering Committee is recommending award of $1.13 million and Proposition K inflation and interest funds that the Manchester Junior Arts project is entitled to receive. We're also recommending designation of CIP funds that are already awarded to the project as cash flow for state grant funds. The project includes development of a junior arts facility and restoration of the existing theater. At this time, BOE is preparing to award the construction contract. There is the potential that operation of the facility would be contracted out. If that occurs, then there would be no impact to the general fund for operations and maintenance.
Thank you. Would the Representative of Cultural Affairs want to add anything?
I'm sorry, Councilman
Would the Representative from Cultural Affairs like to add anything?
No, we're simply here to answer any questions. Just so that you know, we are having a meeting this afternoon to talk about the reimbursements to the California Cultural and Historical Endowment. We did receive a $2.4 million grant. Because of the work that's already been done on this project, we now have some invoices that are eligible for reimbursement. We have submitted the invoices to the state. The state has asked for some backup documentation, and we'll be reviewing that backup.
Thank you very much. Madam CAO, does the Councilman of the 8th District been briefed and his staff, and they're supportive of this?
Yes, the staff has been briefed,
Okay.
and they are supportive.
We're going to recommend approval unless you want to add anything.
I just have one correction. There's an error to the amount reflected in BOE's report. The CIP balance is actually 1.75. It's stated as 2.4.
Very well. Recommend approval. That's item number 6. Item number 7.
Item number 7 is scheduled for council on December 17th. This is an LA for Kids Steering Committee report relative to a 2-year extension of the Proposition K agreement number C-111822 with Los Angeles Unified School District for field improvements at Cleveland Senior High School.
Great. We're joined by Councilman Wesson. Thank you, Mr. Wesson. This item.
Okay, Bernice Hollins. The steering committee is recommending a 2-year term extension from June 30th, 2009 to June 30th, 2011 for a LAUSD field improvement project at the Cleveland Senior High School. While the Proposition K scope has already been completed, there's other work ongoing at the facility that's funded by the school district. We're not able to accept the project until those improvements are complete. So the term extension will allow for a full closeout of the project. There is no impact to the general fund as the school district would provide for operation and maintenance.
And it mentions about a softball field.
There's a number of, it's actually a sports field. I believe there's multiple uses for that field. There was a scoreboard installed, various amenities, also I think to the spectator area.
Right. Not this year, but maybe next year, because there's a tremendous amount of work that you and others have done on this matter here. It'd be nice to see cumulatively what the reduction of water usage, because many of these fields are modern with synthetic turf. To see what it is, it'd be nice to know. So think about it in 2011 when you're in your committee to look at how much have you saved in water and also in the cost of water.
Okay,
so that's
definitely.
a good thing. Thank you so much. Mr. Weston, any questions? Okay. We're going to vote to approve. If I could call for 6 and 7, because we've been joined by Mr. Weston, to approve those. And also item number 8.
Item number 8 is scheduled for council on December 17th. This is a CAO report relative to a second request for proposals, RFP, for the Vermont Western Station Neighborhood Area Plan.
The steering committee is recommending a second release of the park's first RFP and rejection of the proposals received under the original RFP. This RFP will make available $984,000 in trust fund monies for recreational projects located within a 2.2 square mile area of the Hollywood and Wilshire communities, located largely in CD13 with a small portion in CD4. Other three responses that we received under the original RFP, one received funding from Proposition K and two were deemed non-responsive. Due to modification to the RFP criteria, we believe the original applicants will be able to qualify under the second RFP release. Should a city project be selected, there is the potential impact to the general fund for operation and maintenance costs.
Right, and can we also, if we find and identify a location that's LA Unified, partner with LA Unified?
LA Unified was one of the applicants under the original RFP, and we do expect them to resubmit.
Very good. Any questions, Mr. Wesson? All right, recommend approval.
Thank
All
you.
right, so thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that takes us to basically back to item number 1. So we're going to start off with item number 1. Let's just have a report for the CAO first and the CLA on item number 1.
Item number 1 was continued from the November 23rd meeting. This is a CLA and Department of Cultural Affairs report relative to a request for proposals to transition cultural art facilities to public-private partnerships. This item has also been referred to the Budget and Finance Committee.
Great. And Madam City Attorney, in reviewing this, could we combine item 1, 2, and 3 together?
We can.
Okay. They're all related, so we're going to combine them together. Claudia.
Claudia Aguilar with the CAO's office. Before you is a report, status report on the funding for cultural affairs, art, and facilities that are scheduled to be partnered out in 2010-11. As part of the 2010-11 budget, 14 facilities were identified to be partnered out. As of this time, the RFP has not been released, and the funding will run out for these facilities on December 31st. The department has identified $98,000 that will keep these facilities in operations through February 2011. The Department of Cultural Affairs had also identified an additional $169,000 in council civic funds. At this time, we do not recommend appropriating those funds and ask that the department be asked to report back in 30 days on the status of conversations with the various council offices. At this point, even with the council civic fund, we will still be $128,000 short. We feel that we will be able to move forward on this RFP in January, so hopefully we can come back and report to you at that time.
Okay, there was a request from the chair of the Finance Committee, as well as the General Services Committee of Council, to bifurcate the what is 162 or approximate facilities. And this committee, focus on those that are dealing only with arts, because I don't want to slow down the other process as we try to get our house in order as it relates to leases. Reggie Jones Sawyer, could you just come to the table, and would you want to make that statement? And if it's not your mother calling you on the phone, okay.
I believe Councilmember Parks wanted to segregate out the 14 that we're looking at today in this committee, and then the over 100 nonprofits and the nonprofit policy that General Services wrote about 3 years ago, to make sure that moves along on its own course and not to impede what's actions that are happening here.
All right, so if I need help from the CAO on that, and have you been briefed on that, Ms. Garai?
No, but I know what he...
You got it. Okay, so how do we separate that? And this is to separate those public non-cultural facilities. By motion, or what do we do? What do we recommend? We make a recommendation to actually separate it. And Terry, if you could join us and identify yourself for the record.
Terry Sowers, CAO staff. Mr. Chairman, the nonprofit leasing policy is not actually calendared today and before you. So I would defer to our colleagues in the city attorney if we can address that. I think as long as this item stays in committee, the balance of the policy could be waived and go forward to the ITGA and Budget and Finance.
And let me ask you a
Committee.
question if I do this. If I do a motion to council and waive it in council, waive the consideration that the CAO identified the non-cultural facilities or facilities that this committee is interested to separate those out, because to the audience that's here today, all city property has been tied together on this one issue, and we're trying to get focused to say the cultural facilities of the city. So to be able to separate those that have a variety of very important uses, but there's an interest in the city to try to get those leases in order.
Yeah, I believe that would work if you just segregate out these 14 facilities, and there's another motion pending in council on William Grant still that would address that situation. So I think if you did a motion specifically naming these 14 and then moving the rest to the nonprofit leasing policy, that would probably be fine.
So I'm going to ask the CLA if they could draft a motion so the committee could take that. That being said, it's our intent to separate those that are non-cultural facilities so we could focus tremendously on the issues of cultural affairs. In addition to the support of William Grant Still, which we're going to take up in council today, we need to focus on these so that they can continue to survive and thrive. And they're important. So with that, we will do that in council, and there'll be another action that will be notification on that to all forthcoming.
I'm sorry, Councilman Lagann, I would just clarify that in the actual written motion, you specify the specific facilities that you're exempting.
Got it.
To the 14, 15 that we've been dealing with all along.
Correct. Good. Okay. That being said, that's our intent. Ms. Garai, I know you've worked very hard to try to find a solution. Would you want to articulate what is up to the date?
Yeah, I had an opportunity to review the CAO's report to your committee, and I would say that the $98,000 that we've identified and they've concurred with should move forward as they have proposed, making it available to the department for use specifically to keep the facilities open as long as that money lasts. The prior year council civic funds, I just want to give a little bit of context for that recommendation from our department. Our department, as you know, manages the annual council civic fund appropriation on behalf of each of the 15 council districts. Each year, each council district receives an allocation of, it has been typically $20,000 this year because of budget issues, it was $18,000. However, funds that were not spent in previous years, and there are a few council members who are very proactive about using these funds, and other council members that are less so. So each year we typically go into the following fiscal year with an unspent balance that is reappropriated. So what we're proposing is that the current year balances allocated to each council district, which was $18,000 each, not be touched, but that prior year unspent rolled over balances, which as of last week, according to our figures, totaled $169,044, be appropriated towards keeping the art centers and theaters open for the remainder of the fiscal year. Now, the CAO's report recommends that we speak to each council member and report back within 30 days. My concern about that is twofold. One is that it's the holidays, and I just really think that a lot of people are going to be I personally am going to go visit my family for the holidays beginning next week, and it's difficult to schedule 15 meetings with the council people who are very busy. So I would... I
think the council people are very interested. What we have to ask the question too, and maybe the city attorney, is this an 8-vote item, or is this is these allocated funds of a previous fiscal year that needs the individual approval of the council member?
I don't know how many votes I have to find out for sure, but I think my understanding of the issue is that these are funds that are allocated to each council's office. And we don't know at this stage whether or not those funds have already been allocated, appropriated for some other use.
Right.
And we would need to inquire of each council member to find out if they
Right.
acquiesce to the use of these funds for cultural affairs facilities.
Right. Well, I would get the absolute information, and I'd go to council every day at 10, and I'd deal with the council deputies to try to get the word on. Our backs are coming very close to the wall. We've had numerous meetings on this. We have to find a way. And I think there's a lot of pressure on the CAO's office to try to get our house in order, if I could use that term. Not that it's out of order, but it just is, it needs to be in order to move forward. Because this is now 6 months into it. And I'll help you any way that I can to try to expedite it. I think there's a list. Some funds have been expended. This is money that the council allots for cultural events throughout the city in their districts. I'm speaking to the audience so they know what it is. If previous funds were not spent and are still in accounts of a previous year, that's the money that we're looking at. We're not looking at the money that has been allocated this year.
Correct.
So I got to ask, Terry, would you know, would it be something that is right now, that is this year? Or, excuse me, how could I say it? Is this money that the council, as an 8-vote person, could say, look, we're all going to do it together? Because there's other funds, there's what's the CRA funds, 1290?
AB 1290.
1290 money that everybody swept. No choice, we all said okay, it all goes there. This would be a case where there would be the similar type thing.
Mr. Chairman, these are budgeted funds, however, as they have been allocated to the individual council districts, and we don't know what commitments from those prior years may have been made, and as a courtesy to each of the members,
Absolutely.
it would be prudent to inquire of each of the council districts
Absolutely.
before making a recommendation to spend those monies. And in the absence of that discussion, we're not saying don't use them, but we're at least saying ask before you spend the money.
Absolutely. Okay, good. So we'll have to look at that aspect there. So with that being said, I'll give you 15 more days, Olga. So we'll say 45 days instead of, so we're looking at February 1st, which makes Reggie smile only because Reggie's very positive. Okay, good. Mr. Weston, approve that. So on this here, I'm going to have some public comment card.
Can I just?
Yes.
The other only comment that I would make in terms of the CAO's report is that there is a recommendation for the department to look at its grants program as a possible other source of funding for this year, and if some legal issues that have materialized are not resolved or resolvable, and the department has to continue operating the art centers next fiscal year, that we look to grant funds as a possible source. And I just want to say that I really think that that's not a very good solution, that would be pitting two sectors of the arts community against each other, because you would be taking potentially money from arts organizations throughout the city that use our money to leverage other funds, including from the county, from the state, and from the private sector, to utilize for the facilities. And I just don't think that that's good public policy to pit two sectors.
We don't pit anybody together. We try to make everybody happy. So I would have you retract that from us trying to pit it, Olga. I'd look at other things. You know, we want to put everything on the table. Everybody's very supportive, and we believe greatly in the grants, because that's a very key thing.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Mr.
Sarah.
Chairman,
Yeah.
what we were hoping is that they would review all of their special appropriations and determine if there were any savings or any unspent monies. And as the budget moves forward for next year, it would be appropriate for them to look at what a funding package for next year what funding package may be needed for next fiscal year in the event that the RFP does not move forward or is further delayed. So that was our concern in making sure that in some way, shape, or form, at least particularly for 11-12, that the budget addresses these facilities in some way, or that we have a plan to address the facilities as we go forward.
Very good. That's real important.
We'll do that. We just submitted our budget package on December 10th as required, and did not do that because it wasn't really on our radar screen, but we will go back and take that.
Absolutely, everybody's going to be on the radar screen. We want to, as a committee, try to have this solved in the next steps in our meeting, which may be the last week in January. What's our meeting in January? The The 25th. You have to have the report by the 25th, Olga.
Okay.
That may not be 45 days, but that's more than 30 days.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Good. Mr. Wesson?
Yeah, Olga,
Olga?
before you leave, the last time we met, we had a motion where related to the William Grant Still Art Center.
Yes, sir.
So I want to know the position, what your recommendation is going to be where it relates to that.
We are very much in support of keeping the William Grant Still Center. My understanding is that there's a motion in front of council recommending that the department retain the center into the future. And so we're very much in support of that. Our only concern is that we will need some staffing issues resolved, because as you know, we lost the 2 full-time staff members that were dedicated to William Grant Still. We've been making do with a huge amount of support from our now part-time staff members and the community to keep the center open and thriving, but that is really a Band-Aid, and if we're going to keep the center, we do need your support in reestablishing at least one full-time position so that it can be done in a proper manner. And I know that there's a lot of community members here that are very eager to see that take place. So yes, we would be absolutely.
So my question then would become, I understand that I have this motion in committee today, but if it's the recommendation of your department that the William Grant Still Art Center not be included on that list of 14 facilities, then there will be no need for me to act on that motion, correct?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if that's
somebody
something that
answer?
the council has to approve that as a body. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that.
Mr. West, I believe because council acted to include William Grant Still in the RFP, if the motion's approved in council today, then that officially removes it from the RFP. We're all moving in that general direction,
Okay.
but that's the ministerial action we need
No,
to
that's
take.
fine. So we have to take the action today, that's fine.
But we're very much in support.
Okay, thank you very much, Claudia. Thank you very much. Public comment on item number 1. David Bell, Liz Johnson, Maria Leon, and Aaron Donovan.
Morning.
Morning.
Did I go? My name is David Bell. I'm the president of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council, and I'm here on behalf of myself today, but the Neighborhood Council has consistently over the years expressed its support for Barnsdall Park. And we come to these meetings basically because we want to let the City Council and this committee know that Barnsdall Park is important to our neighborhood. It's the only park in East Hollywood, the only one, for 53,000 residents. So we believe, we've had many meetings with community people over this issue. What we'd first like to say is we'd like the city to try to find the money to run Barnsdall Park. We believe that that's possible. This isn't a revenue source for the city. This is a vital, crucial public asset for our community in the most park-starved community in the city. If the city can't find the money, which I don't believe is true, I believe the money is there for Barnsdall, which is really the crown jewel of Los Angeles, then the community would like to be more involved in the RFP process, particularly the neighborhood councils. I know that the Barnsdall Foundation has been involved to a certain extent, and we know they care about the park, but the neighborhood councils really aren't involved. There are 2 neighborhood councils affected, Greater Griffith Park and East Hollywood. So we'd like to be involved. And finally, I guess I would just like to close with a quote from Eileen Barnsdall, whose vision should really control Barnsdall Park, and she said, "No country can be great until the least of its citizens can be touched by beauty, truth, and freedom. Unless all of these radiate from this hill, it is as nothing." Thank you.
Thank you very much. Liz?
Hi. I cannot follow that with much, except to say, I don't know where this document, this was the November 27th report from Miguel Santana, and I'm looking at the chart here, this matrix, which states that there's a DCA proposal, and then there's some proposed revisions. I wanted to address my comments to the proposed revisions, just in case those are being considered. which I don't know if they are or not. We are concerned about this idea that the rent would be based on a 4% fair market rent as opposed to the other formula that DCA came up with, because then it gets us into kind of a dialogue slash elaborate discussion about what the fair market rate is in all the areas. For example, ours is listed as $2.50, which is definitely 75 cents to $1, not $2.50, and I'm sure most of these are not, estimated correctly, so then we have to discuss that for another month or two. And then we probably would also have to start talking about the usable square footage, because like the Warner Grand is 38,000 square feet. Well, we're looking at a gigantic building that is kind of a white elephant, and we're not going to pay, percentage-wise, how much do we really use and how often, the reason we're here, a community group running a big theater, is because it's not a market-driven activity. So some of these assumptions are very abstract, and we feel like it's very difficult to come here once a month and tell you all of these issues. For example, last year, Janice Hahn promised our group and another group about $1,500 or $2,000 from that council civic fund. Our council representative cannot get an answer from DCA as to why the funds can't be distributed. And so we're kind of like, there's a lot of moving parts, and you guys would get so much more information about what is going on if we were able to talk more freely than a 3-minute, rambling speech about these little details, which it's a pleasure to have the opportunity to share.
Hey, I like that smile. I agree with you on many accounts there. This has been a little bit of a struggle for all of us as we retreat. In the past, the city has always been able to provide. And as Mr. Bell said earlier, he doesn't want to see it as a revenue source. Every parcel may be challenged in this very difficult, changing economic climate, but there should be fairness, as always, to it, and a reality of why we came to you in the first place as a partnership with community groups. Thank you very much. And if there's an individual thing, myself or other, and we'll be happy to meet with you to give you additional time, or your group, and the councilwoman of the district. Yes.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Donovan. I am the president of Barnsdall Arts Center Student Advisory Committee. I represent about 700 students. And it was really nice to see you the other day, Mr. Lavange, in Thai-Town, getting your hands dirty. We were planting those trees. You were down there just digging. It was a great day. The community was very happy. They were out there. This kind of optimism is what we need in the times today. Our public libraries are taking hits. Our Hollywood Farmers Market about to lose its permit. This is where people, and they have really hard lives, they come together and it's their time. It's one of my favorite times of the week, is to go to the Hollywood Farmers Market. Besides Barnsdall, I go to Barnsdall 4 or 5 times a week. I'm up there talking to many people. I love it. Everybody that goes up there just loves that place. It's a jewel. It is a crown jewel of L.A. I would think that taking an RFP process, partnering out the city's responsibilities to take care of that park, and the students and the people who want to enjoy that park, to partner that out is a shame. Hopefully we will not do that. Please take the RFP process off the table for Barnsdall Park and all public facilities. I would like to close with a quote, also a quote that Mussolini said back in 1923, I believe, and he said that fascism should more appropriately be called corporatism, because it is the partnership between the state and the corporation to run all public facilities. Now, I see a lot of parallels today with times in Europe in the 1920s and 30s, and these are, it's kind of frightening. So let's be on the right side of history. Let's take this RFP process off the table, and all partnering with public facilities. Thank you.
Just to let you know, this has been going on partnership for over 15 years. Al Nodell, who some of you may know, led the effort, because the last time the city was in a struggle, we reached out to partners. There's nothing wrong with partners. It's the process and absolutely the end result that matters. Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Paul Gamberg. Michael Lejean, is that correct, Michael? Sorry, Maria Leon. Roberta Morris.
Sorry to be a bit late. Unfortunately, as a fact of modern life, the traffic is really...
We announced that earlier on. There was unfortunately, too, someone lost their life this morning coming to wherever they were going down on the other side of town.
Oh, wow.
Okay, Paul.
I left a little over an hour and a half ago. Anyway, I've got documents which I try to transmit. I'm just here to correct the record from the CAO's report. My history with Barnsdall is very long. Currently, I serve merely as a donor, but there are many copies of this if I can make sure it gets into the record. I'll take one of them just to let you know. Public record search revealed the actual costs in the case of Barnsdall. I am very concerned about two things. In the record, it talks about the Barnsdall Arts Center as a building. It's just a CAO error. It's easy to correct. That building has been closed since 1999 for various reasons, which I don't need to go into. You can look into it. So the Barnsdall Arts Center is currently sharing the building called the Junior Arts Center, and that record needs to be corrected. The next, so in the rental projections, they're off. I believe very much in a partnering process. I believe it has helped McGroarty. I believe this can be done in a right way. I believe that BACSAC is heading in the wrong direction now and needs to be involved in the partnering process. Further, one other point of plea here. I've enclosed the costs of security and custodial. It's a whole 11-acre park. It's not unique. You can apply those costs full-blown. It's $500,000 a year in security at 24 hours a day. Obviously, we can't afford any longer to maintain 24-hour a day, but we've got an architectural treasure in Barnsdall that's kind of unique, and you can apply the security costs of the whole park to a tiny program when you're maintaining restrooms for the public, you're maintaining park safety, you're maintaining architectural safety. You got issues there. It's documented. Please, CAO, it's a plea. Change that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gamberg.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Michael Lagann. Thank you for hearing my testimony. I'm here briefly speaking from my heart. I didn't intend to do this, and I'd rather not. But I'm going to tell you something about my life. I grew up in Washington, D.C., when it was predominantly black. And the city of District of Columbia invested in the youngsters there. We had a program where I was invited to Switzerland in 1969 to play at an International Youth Orchestra Festival, where I met all sorts of people from all parts of the country. This is about the William Grant Still Center. Today you have people my age who are in the decision-making age of 50s or so who know who William Grant Still is, because when we went there as an orchestra, we represented the United States, and we didn't take European composers, we took black composers. And a lot of people wouldn't have known about it. I must tell you that the South African Youth Orchestra was there, and as you know, there's apartheid there, and they decided they were going to boycott our concert. But wisdom said that we would do as we would like to be treated. So we performed, and the people in Europe and Switzerland gave us thunderous applause. And a lot of those people are adults now, and they know about William Grant Stills and George Walker and other black composers who the small film industry does know about. So now, as an adult, I have a center here in the city where I live that has information that is germane to me, and as a former teacher in the LA public school systems, I have a source where I can send people where they don't just read history, but they see people who made it. And that center serves a purpose that is not being served anywhere else. And in this age of privatization, we can invest in prisons and places where we support cell phone companies and other people, or we can invest in the actual people. The folks that I went to school with and played in the orchestras with played in the United States Army bands. One of them is Michael Morgan, who was associate conductor of the Chicago Symphony. So it is an investment that you're making, and I think in these short time terms we forget that, and I recommend that we keep that in mind. And
Thank you very much.
My name's Maria Leon, and I'm a Barnsdall student, and I'm not happy about the RFP thing at all. It just seems sort of un-American, but that's just my thing. I'm wondering, too, why there is no impact statements on any of these things you're planning. I know it's hard to know how something's going to fall out before it happens, but somebody ought to at least be looking at that. Also, I'd like to know who are the people who are working on the RFP, who we'd have to bother about this with our concerns and our worries. And what will happen to BPF and FOHH and LACMA and VACSAC when all this happens? I just, that's my concern. And I'm running out of things to say.
That's all right, Maria, you said good things.
Yeah, anyway, I'm hoping you can find the funds somewhere to continue.
Right.
Or work as a go-between between us and whoever you pick out for the RFP.
Right.
I mean, I don't like the RFP, but...
I got that. Also, to let you know, the County of Los Angeles had a similar problem, and they went heavy partnership. And you mentioned LACMA, there's a heavy partnership. The Hollywood Bowl, although it's owned by the people of the county, run by Recreation and Parks of the county, it is run by the Philharmonic Association and that public-private partnership. And I think, Madam CAO, if we could look to maybe have a one sheet that really defines what partnerships, what government's looking at, so, you know, so I think that'd be very helpful. Next.
My name is Roberta Morris. I work with Art Walk. We were in the organizers that started the Los Feliz Art Walk up again, and I've been working in the churches and the synagogue communities around the park, and I became more involved with the park in order to see if we could develop the southeast corner that has access to the metro station and also Children's Hospital. My concern was that the park needed to be, this public support for the park needed to be expanded. I'm quite taken aback that we've had such a long process where it seems to be going the other direction. There's interest in the neighborhood and concern that the children need to be better served, especially the children from the Children's Hospital. Just yesterday, I was there, and a parent came up, and he had been told that there was a park there. And he says, what kind of park? Because that entrance is really quite awful. What kind of place is this for children to play? And I showed him further into the park. But if the city will take this off the RFP off the table so we can move ahead to build on the support that the park has, I personally will commit to getting the neighborhood churches and synagogues and businesses that work with the Art Walk to campaign to raise funds to beautify that area, to make it more accessible to children in arts-appropriate type facilities, and to make it more wheelchair accessible, especially in that entranceway that has an elevator there already that is very seldom operated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Nan Woolman, Stuart Rappaport, Edith Abeta, and Marshall Levy. Marshall Levy already spoke? You didn't speak? Come on up. Thank you.
Hi, Councilman. My name is Marshall Louie. I'm the co-president of the Barnesville Art Park Foundation. And we've been watching this with interest since I guess February or April or whenever it started. And our interest is in a viable and vibrant Barnesville Park. That's what we've always wanted, and we've worked for years for that. And we understand that the city has continued to cut its staff and its services, and the budget outlook doesn't look good going forward. I just heard that the shortfall is going to be even greater than people thought this morning on the radio driving here. So we would love the park to remain public, to remain community-based, to remain open. And I think we do believe all those services can continue in a partnership. However, if the partnership is going to happen, we also understand that the RFP is just a request for proposals. It's not a done deal. And I think that the fact that this has taken so long has started to take a strain on the process. Every 6 months it comes up. We were talking to some of the staff members. Every 6 months they wonder if they have to pack their office because they're not going to have a job. We come here and people are searching for $1,000 here, $10,000 there. So I guess what we're here to ask today is to bring the community into the RFP process more, and to please help us move it forward so that we can issue the request for proposals so that we can see who's out there and start shaking the trees and see who is going to respond to this request for proposals and know what the future of the park is. That's really what we want to know. If there aren't going to be any partners, then we can deal with that reality. If there are, then the community can start working with that potential partner for the best possible outcome so that it can remain community-based, affordable, open to the public, all the things that we want. And I know that that's what you want too. And I know that's what Councilman Garcetti wants as well. And we want to help you with that as best we can. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Levy.
Hi, I'm Edith Abeda. It's disappointing when the City of Los Angeles, with a budget of $7 billion, adopts a position of failure when it comes to funding its own community arts programs, viewing nonprofit organizations as more resourceful and successful, and admitting defeat in its ability to maintain democracy. Opting instead for a solution that dissolves participation, redress, community input, and inclusiveness. Publicly operated programs allow for many voices to be heard and represented, with a system in place to shape programming, address concerns, make public comments like I am doing now, and uphold the First Amendment of the Constitution. Even the best privately run nonprofit organization does not allow for this. Many citizens believe it is worth the 1/100th% of the total city budget to keep the Los Angeles Municipal Art Gallery, the Barnsdall Gallery Theater, Barnsdall Art Center, and the Junior Art Center publicly funded and operated institutions. I ask the council to continue its commitment to democracy and remove Barnsdall from the RFP list.
Thank you very much.
I'd also like to submit for the public record, these are questions for the council regarding the CAO's report on the 27th, and then also documents prepared by community members as far as possible visions and solutions to the parks situation.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, Stuart Rappaport. I'm an artist in the city here and grew up in Los Angeles and would like to see the parks and arts facilities remain open and public. But I just wanted to ask a question of the council and the committee. And what is your vision after and if a partnership takes place, how the parks would look? How Barnsdall particularly would look? Would it be a partnership with LACMA or MoCA where they have 6 months of the year to do what they want and 6 months of the year to continue to be what it is today? Or anyway, what is your general vision of how the park would look once a partnership took place?
I'm going to take public comment, and then I'll be happy after this meeting with the microphone on to answer any of those questions. But I want to get public comment in so everybody gets a chance to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Stuart.
Hello, my name's Nan Wallman. I would like to say I'm speaking against the RFP, but I really have a couple of questions about what I've seen going on. I've been through many meetings at this point, and I noticed the RFP states there's a stipend of $14,000 toward operating expenses for whoever, any tenant who comes in, anyone who takes on the privatization. And is that going to mean $14,000 per facility, or in a case like Barnsdall where there are a number of facilities on the property, is that going to be $14,000 for each section of that? If this is about money, why are we giving the $14,000 to the prospective tenant, as I'd like to call them, the privatization part? The other thing is, this is all, once again, if this is about money and about saving the city money, this does not seem to be doing it. In the last meeting, there was an approved grant of $100,000 from the NEA toward looking into a new facility on Broadway, an arts facility on Broadway in the Arts Corridor downtown. You can't even, the DCA can't even operate what it has now and is privatizing. Why are they looking into a new facility? What are they going to do in the long run if they take this research, get this new facility, and then they can't operate that either? Are they going to have to privatize that? It just doesn't make sense. The whole number thing just doesn't work to me. I'd like to know where that's coming from and why they're doing things like that.
Thank you very much. Again, you could, after we go through the agenda, I'll leave this open and I'll answer any of those questions. Nyla Arslanian is the last card on this item.
Good morning, council members. Nyla Arslanian, President of the Hollywood Arts Council and Chair of the Greater Griffith Park Neighborhood Council's Culture and Events Committee. As our President of the Barnsdall Art Park Foundation, of which I am a board member, stated that this has been a long process, and I really want to acknowledge the hard work of this committee and the Cultural Affairs Department, the CAO's office, in trying to work resolution. However, the longer we go on this process, it seems like the more misinformation is out in the community, and it is taking its toll on those organizations who are really trying to be a voice of resolution and to bring information in a way that the community can help understand this process. With regard to nonprofits, we've seen art centers in the community that are working and are working well, and we would like to see this RFP process move forward so that, as Marshall said, we can sort of shake the trees and see what comes forward, and then we'll know what to do. And I am concerned, as Paul Gambard mentioned, about the security of this park. This is an unusual situation, and I think that's going to have to be looked at in terms of the cost and how that is borne by however this goes forward. Again, thank you for your efforts, and I guess we'll see you in a little bit more than a month. Thank you very much.
If I could ask a general question of all concerning Barnsdall. Has representatives from the city been to Barnsdall, not employees at Barnsdall, but representatives from the city been to Barnsdall to discuss any of these proposals or any of these concepts at all? Yes. Okay, no one, has anyone? If someone, Sal, if you want to address that, just to let you know. No.
And also, council members, on October the 5th, there was a stakeholders meeting where all parties came together to try to explain the process to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that through...
Okay, well, I think we maybe, as we go on, maybe we could have an update out there in January. Thank you very much. All right, on this item here, what we're going to do is continue item number 1 to next month on the 25th of January. Item number 2, we note and file. Item number 3, with those recommendations, the CAO recommends on item 3 that we go forward with item 3. So, if that's all right with you, Mr. Wesson? All right, and I want to thank everybody. I think someone mentioned the word, I don't know if they use the word fatigue. It is a process, but we are guided by our city attorney. And our city attorney also rules that we should do this here. Some of you who I saw Saturday, I appreciate, you know, anytime I see Hollywood Boulevard come together, which is so important on that issue. But at the same time, this is the process that we have to go through. Those doors are open, those microphones are open, these cards are available for you to speak on. So that will be the action so far. We will see you in January and hope to see you sooner. Mr. Clerk, we're going to call item number 5, I believe, right now. Is that right?
Number 4.
Number 4, excuse me, number 4. We have one card from Joe Young. And by the way, if anybody does want to ask me questions, I'll answer them after we complete the agenda. Item 4.
Item number 4 is a motion, Councilmember Labange for Councilmember Hahn, Councilmember Huizar, relative to the naming of the museum at the Italian Hall in the El Pueblo de Los Angeles Historical Monument as the Joseph R. Sorrell Italian-American Museum.
I got it. Okay, we're going to continue this matter, Mr. Wesson, as requested of Ms. Hahn, so we'll continue the matter there. So with this issue here. I thank you. We'll hold that for the next meeting in January. Thank you. Okay. All right. No, there were no speaker cards at item 4. Item 5.
Item number 5 is scheduled for council on December 17th. It's a CAO report relative to term extensions for 25 Proposition A1 project agreements administered by the Department of Recreation and Parks.
Okay, well, anyway, our chair, I'll wait for the chair to take action on that.
Number 5, please.
Okay. Bernice Hollins, Office of the CAO. The steering committee is recommending term extensions for 25 Proposition A projects that are administered by the Department of Recreation and Parks. This action is prompted by a new counting policy that requires the term includes the time of closeout activities. Any increased costs in operation and maintenance as a result of these projects coming online would be addressed through the city budget process.
Very good. Anything from Rec and Parks?
No, I'm just here to answer any questions.
We have one comment card, Mr. Young.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Mr. Wesson, good to see you. My name is Joe Young, live at 12551 Presnell Street in L.A., 90066. And when I downloaded this agenda item, I further downloaded the attachment and then read the attachment, and something caught my eyes, I'm sure the chair would readily understand, where it said Griffith Park Trails. I'm not questioning the timing or the specific motion, but in reading over the details of just what the grant is supposed to cover, I wonder if the fact that Griffith Park is now a cultural heritage site is going to have an impact on exactly the nature of the projects that are being proposed. For example, it looks like there are going to be about 200 trail marker signs, each on some kind of cement rubble base, and that type of thing. So I just have a question that these items should be looked at from the point of view of cultural heritage status, and specifically any kind of projects conform to what we think are traditional Griffith Park standards. Thank you.
I was just going to say, these are not planned projects. All of these projects have been completed. They were just waiting administratively to be closed out.
So in Ferndale, there's going to be no work done in the park. This has been in the last number of years. These are closeout accounts. None of this, like Ferndale's listed here, but that doesn't mean any work's going on in Ferndale. It already has gone on.
Correct.
Previous to that, and how many years back could it be? How many years back could this be? 2 years, 3 years?
That we completed it?
Oh, no, did the work possibly on these grants?
Oh, the A1 funds were awarded back in 1990, so it could have been...
1990, so okay. Well, this is a very good point that Mr. Young said. In the future, if there's a project for the park, whatever the Parks Department does recommend, it will go before the Cultural Heritage Board?
If it's required to, yes.
Yes, okay. Thank you, Mr. Young. I'm sorry you had to come all the way down. You probably missed your hike today.
I'm still recovering from yesterday's.
Okay, the day before. Okay. Thank you. Recommend approval on this. Okay. Mr. Clerk, what do we have before us?
We have item number 9, which is a discussion item. Department of Recreation and Parks to provide a verbal briefing relative to the recent increases in the Recreation and Parks schedule of rates and fees for community garden plots.
Okay, Mr. Wesson, as you may or may not know, the department, I know you know everything, but on specifics there, in the July budget, listed a variety of fee changes. In that, they had a fee change that related to community gardens. There's, I believe, 11 community gardens under the Recreation and Parks property, and in those there, but there was no posting at these gardens. There was no particular outreach at the gardens. It was done through an administration process. That being said, as we play catch-up in all of our business here, now we're implementing this here, and there is a proposal to raise the fees here. If you could specifically tell us the process that got us to this point, and I do have public comment cards that we want to hear from, and what the next steps are, because I know your commission is very concerned with that, your general manager is very concerned with that, as we go forward.
Certainly, Councilmember Kevin Regan, Assistant General Manager with the Department of Recreation and Parks, and with me today is Ramon Barajas, our Acting Superintendent of the San Fernando Valley region. Councilmember, every year the Department of Recreation and Parks puts forward a revised board report of our general rates and fees. Typically, those fees are increased incrementally in this report. Contained in the report, which was approved by the commission in July of this year, were a number of fee changes and increases, and they included increases to the 11 community gardens, and those community gardens were listed in the report. This is a standard report. We do this every year. It's advertised through and posted through City Clerk in normal channels. It's also available online. That was a commission action to raise the rates and fees. In November of this year, in preparation for these fees becoming effective in January, we did post the garden plots in the Sepulveda Garden Center for these rates and fee increases. Subsequently held a community meeting in which there was a number of about 125 people came to the meeting. There was a lot of opposition voiced against these fees. There was a lot of information provided to the department. Subsequent to that, we had a commission meeting. Our commission president, Barry Sandard, asked for staff to report back on the status of all these fees and to give a full study of the variety of different community gardens that are in our system and come back with recommendations regarding all these fees and some research regarding all of the different plots. That's where it stands now. We're preparing a report back to the committee.
But of these sites, was a piece of paper that had a city seal on it that said public notice by order of the Board of Recreation and Parks concerning the fees. This matter will be discussed on June 2009 or anything like that, whenever it was. Was physical posting taking place at any of the
At the Sepulveda Garden Center.
Any of the, just one? When?
Well, there are the postings of all the rates and fees with the city clerk, but that was it.
I got that, Kevin.
I'm just saying that was
I got it. I'm a gardener, okay? Okay, I dump trash cans, okay, up at Dante's.
I know that.
It's a beautiful job. It makes me very connected, from Dante, from Charlie. But there's never a posting in the garden. That's what I would ask for on these things. Do you post at the golf course when the fees are raised? At the starter's box, do you say that the fees consideration will be done? Because I think what we want would be that it be as transparent as the word is defined in the dictionary. And that means going to location, and if there is a great need, because your department has really taken a whack, if I could say, in your ability to serve the public. That being said, what we have before us is these gardens is in early January. The commission is going to get a full and complete detailed report on the existence of these facilities and what it is. Is the main concern that you have, does each of these facilities have a water meter directly to that location?
For the most part, yes. In some cases, the water meters are connected into the park which contains the community garden.
Got it. Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I remember the last time we increased the fees for golf, and at we call it, or it's called the starters shack or starters location, they did have posted that on such and such the fees will increase from such and such to whatever. So at least where it relates to the golf fees and the other, because we did a series of adjustments.
That's correct.
All of that was posted. And it was funny, the one day I get there, the day that these new things come into play. So I'm waiting to go pay my fee. And there was some unhappy guys. So I'm looking down like that. But now things are all going smooth. People have adjusted to it. Because one of the things that we did, I think you pay more if you do not live in the city of Los Angeles, and that is
correct.
Yeah,
the resident
that's for all right. But now we're talking about gardens, and let's hear from the public. I know on the 5th there'll be a full. Where's the meeting going to be held on the 5th? At Expo Center. Expo Center. Okay, good. All righty. Let's call the public right now, and if I could ask you to vacate your seats. Glenn Bailey, is that correct? Toby Lehman. Sodata Hager, is that correct? And James Raynar.
Good morning, Chairman and Council Member. My name is Glenn Bailey. I'm coordinator with the Friends of Sepulveda Basin. And just to clarify the record, there was no notification in advance of the July 14th meeting of the Recreation and Parks Commission of this and probably any other fees, but specifically the gardeners and the gardens were not notified that the commission was going to be considering those increases. Furthermore, the gardeners have not received no official notification since July 14th that the fees were going to be increased. They would not know until they got their bill, which is payable on January 1, that they'd be going on. Now, because this got to the attention of the gardeners, there was a public meeting held on November 23rd that was mentioned earlier where 130 gardeners showed up at the Sepulveda Garden Center. I would ask that this committee ask for a written report of that meeting. There were notes being taken. I would ask that you ask for a written report of what was said and who said it. That's number one. Number two, every garden is different. What happens in Waddles is not the same thing that happens at Ocean View, that happens at Sepulveda Garden Center. And with regards to Sepulveda Garden Center, which is 800 plots, you should know that the Sepulveda Basin Master Plan by the Army Corps of Engineers in 1981, who owns the land, specifically says regarding the garden center, the plots provided without charge by the City of Los Angeles for vegetable growing by local private citizens. And furthermore, the lease that the city and the Army Corps of Engineers have entered into with regards to this property specifically say the amount of any fees charged by the lessee, that's the city, and all rates and charged, etc., shall be prior approval of the district engineer, that's the Army Corps of Engineers. It says no less than 15 days prior to 30 April and 31 October of each year that this lease is in effect, submit to the district engineer for approval a list of the fees, rates, and prices proposed for the following 6 months. I contacted the Army Corps of Engineers. They have not been notified or requested of this fee increase.
Thank you very much.
They're in violation of the lease.
Very well. I hope you pass that information on to Recreation and Parks. Toby.
They've heard it now.
Thank you for putting this on your agenda especially. I appreciate that. First of all, I would like to state that Waddles Farm has never paid fees to Rec and Parks. However, the Department of Rec and Parks has handled the per plot fee is moot at this point. What we have to do now is to turn the page and move forward. The per plot fee should be rescinded until all of the facts come to light. The Department of Rec and Parks Board of Commissioners at their meeting, as stated by Kevin Reagan, requested that the general manager do a detailed study of each community garden and the community gardens write a detailed report of their involvement and send or give it to Kevin Reagan in order for the board to make a decision about the fees at the meeting on January 5th, 2011. What we're requesting is that your committee remove the deadline of January 31st, 2011, and request that Rec and Parks come back to you with their decision to ensure that the members of each community garden has been taken into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask the city attorney to answer that because Recreation and Parks Commission is somewhat independent of the council because the people want it that way. Could you explain that?
Deputy City Attorney Arlette Brimsey, at this stage, it is not appropriate for this committee to take the action that you're requesting. This is simply public comment. You're making your comments known for the record. The matter is pending before the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners. They have the matter calendared for their January 5th meeting, and at that time, they will address the issue.
But thank you, Toby. I just wanted to let you know that. But yes.
Good morning, council members. My name is Al Renner, and I'm the executive director of the Los Angeles Community Garden Council. Now, our 501(c) has a mission to, number one, watch over all of the gardens in the city if they have a problem. My home garden is in Solano, Canyon, and so it's directly involved. And to my recollection, none of the gardens, except for the Sepulveda Center, has ever paid any fees. And we look through our contracts. Now, I specifically want to address two issues. I want to look in detail at the cost increase, and I want to look at the growing of food in our community gardens. The fee increase on these gardens, and the only one involved so far is the Sepulveda Garden Center, one of the very oldest. Their plot size is 10 by 20. That's 200 square feet. For that tiny piece of land, the Recs and Parks wants to charge $120 a year. That's not much until you reduce it to the square footage. That's 6 cents a square foot. That is some of the same cost as retail stores in our city. The Sepulveda Dam Basin Garden has 750 gardens times $120 a year. That's over $90,000. It's kind of easy to see how, when you add the other gardens who don't pay any fees, there was a very good look at money. This is unacceptable, guys, when gardens are 501(c)(3)s, and we have a 501(c)(3) and I love it, the Western Heritage Museum sitting up there paying $1 a year for acres and acres of land. This is just simply not fair. You have to make it equal all the way across if you're going to do any of that. The other comment that I wanted to make was the notion of growing food in the gardens. It was suggested at the Board of Commission last week that if there was 1 pound of food a week grown in a garden, they would be lucky. You know that's not true. And if you did grow 1 pound of food in each garden at that Sepulveda Dam Basin, you would be growing 750 pounds a week times 52 weeks. It's not hard to see that's 39,000 pounds of food a year coming out of that community garden. And when you look at UC Davis and the Mother Nature Journal on what comes out of a community garden, they recommend that it is $678 per year or 120 pounds of food. That puts it way into the hundreds of thousands of pounds that's being produced in our gardens. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Stephen Box, Chris Lieb, is it Charles Lee? Yeah, please. And then also Linda Lucinda.
Stephen Box. I live in Council District 4, where I'm a candidate for City Council representing CD4. And I'm here today to talk about community gardens. I believe that community gardens are an asset to the community, not just because they produce fresh, wholesome, nutritional food for those that need it, but also they offer an environmental solution, they're an educational solution, they're an economic solution, and they're a public safety solution in our communities. I'm here specifically to ask you to do a few things. The first one is to rescind the impending plot rental fee increase. The second would be to move for a moratorium until July 1 of 2011 for any increases, adjustments to the plot fee rental relationships. The third thing would be to direct staff to actually determine the costs and the benefits and to see which one exceeds the other. And I would suggest that you'll find that the benefits of the community gardens far exceed any costs. The next thing is to take a look at the long waiting lists and to actually pursue community gardens and encourage community gardens and actually see if we can accommodate those on the waiting list as a solution for a lot of things in our communities. And most of all, I'd ask you to embrace community gardens as an integral part of great cities. I would counter that it may be the Commission's purview specifically at this moment of time to direct Rec and Park staff. At the same time, it is the responsibility of the City Council to intervene if rules are being broken, if steps are being taken in outside appropriate behavior. And in this particular case, I would suggest strongly that what's happening is happening outside of what's appropriate, and it is your responsibility to step in. I thank you very much for your consideration.
And Chris Lieb.
Thank you, Council Member, for putting this on your agenda. I'm here as the nephew of a Wattles Park gardener. My uncle and his friends gather several times a week to meet and raise healthy vegetables. He is 98, and his wife, who still accompanies him when she can at the garden, is 101 in 1 week. They attribute their health and longevity to eating 3 courses of vegetables at every meal, plus a glass of wine, I might add. I encourage the city to leave these fees alone or eliminate them in their entirety. While not the case with my aunt and uncle, many of these gardeners who I've observed personally when I come to their festivals are on the lowest economic segment in our society. We should be encouraging them to get out of their house, not be lock-ins, and participate in organic gardening. It is a health and a social issue. In fact, my uncle talks about the garden constantly, and I personally believe it's one of the main reasons that he's still active and gets out of the house and has maintained his longevity. Thank you.
Very good.
Good morning. My name is Charles Lee. I represent Farmworks, a new nonprofit that promotes urban agriculture in LA by providing training and employment opportunities for at-risk youth and growing food. I'm here to speak on behalf of our friends, the community gardeners. And we appreciate the challenges that the economic hardships of recent years have brought upon everyone, individuals as well as government, and appreciate also the difficult decisions that must be made as a consequence. Some of the solutions that are being proposed by Rec and Parks in terms of a flat rate increase for everyone doesn't seem to be, to us, the best solution. We encourage solutions that provide direct accountability to the gardens for any additional costs that are incurred. I believe that the most onerous burden that Rec and Parks carries to date for the community gardens is the water bill. You know, I encourage both Rec and Parks and the City Council to consider direct accountability of that water bill to each respective garden, not only because then there's a dollar-for-dollar charge to the people who are in use, but it also encourages better conservation if the people who are using the water would pay for it. Lastly, you know, I find it surprising that this change in rate use would occur, you know, within moments of the Food Policy Task Force publication of their report commissioned by the Mayor's Office, which promotes, you know, seeks to promote growing the food shed in Los Angeles, of which the community gardens plays an important part. I ask everyone involved to please help them fulfill that goal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Hi. I just want to make sure you called my name because I have lousy handwriting. India Ludueña?
Yes. Solano Gardens.
Yes, I heard Cindy, and I was thinking, that's what people usually think when they hear me. Lindia. Good morning. My name is India Ludueña. I am the garden president at the Solano Canyon Community Garden. I'm here just to say thank you very much for paying a little closer attention to this issue. I believe that the negative impact, just based on the feedback of the gardeners I've received, my own personal gardeners, and we're a very small garden, not nearly as big as Sepulveda or the other ones, but the negative impact on our citizens, on our gardeners, is going to far, far outweigh any financial gain that might hopefully come from this. And I just want to thank you very, very much for paying closer attention.
Thank you. And I love your garden. I love the fact that Recreation and Parks, I think it was Dave Gonzalez years ago, found much of those tiers in Elysian Park that were overgrown. Beautiful part of Elysian Park. We have a few more speakers, and that completes the public comment. Is it Christie? Baltimore? Okay, thank you. And Soda Hager? Thank you. Yeah.
I guess we all need to work on our penmanship.
Hey, Christy.
Hi. Hi, my name is Christy Baltazar. I work for Homegirl Cafe, which is part of Homeboy Industries. I am the Urban Farming and Sustainabilities Coordinator. And as my job down there, I work with 2 trainees every 7 weeks to teach them the basics of raising food from seed. I would like to echo one thing that Stephen said that I think really gets overlooked about the role of community gardens in supporting community safety. Nicole Gatto, who has founded the community garden up in Highland Park, is currently doing a study to look at the effects of the crime rate in the area immediately adjacent to the garden, and she's found that having that garden there, having a community presence, having a spot that formerly was neglected and is now a spot of beauty and a place where the community can come together is actually really helping to reduce the crime rate in that area. A lot of my students come from areas that are heavily affected by gangs. I live in an area that's heavily affected by gangs. And I really think community gardens are really important to helping people come together to fight some of those issues. In addition, I believe really strongly that everybody deserves access to healthy food, and if you look at the economics of who's actually using community gardens, a lot of times it's people that don't have other means for access to organic food. They can't afford to go to Whole Foods, and often the best grocery store that they have is Food for Less, which, you know, is fine, but they don't have a lot of options for organic food. And what else? There was something else I wanted to say that's slipping my mind, but those are the main points I wanted to say. You know, I really feel like supporting these gardens, we help support people that are often overlooked, and I think it's a shame to do that.
You made very good points. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Susan Heyer. I'm a gardener at the Sepulveda Garden Center. We are not formally organized, so I'm here as one of many. I think that a lot of the things that need to be said about the virtues of community gardens have been said here today. We are distressed about the shape of this fee increase and the process through which it has come down. We have made some discoveries along the way that were shocking and disappointing to us. One of them is that the representatives of Rexon Park will disrespect anyone in any forum and say anything they please. Today is the second time that I have seen members of their management lie in a public forum. The first time was when they assured the Board of Commissioners that they indeed supplied tools, and it was a part of this tremendously, this big burden of expense that they carried, and no, they don't. I've sent a letter to explain that to you in detail. Let me reassure you that there was no physical posting of this fee increase at the Sepulveda Garden Center ever. What they are claiming as compliance is that this item in the middle of a 72-page, 71-page document published in July on the web, a document that is not accessible to seniors and low-income people. Therefore, they are saying that seniors and low-income people don't deserve due process. This sort of, it just goes on and on and on. This bad policy followed by justification and shape-shifting and catch me if you can. We're so weary of it. We have had to file a public documents request about every expense that pertains to Sepulveda Garden Center, because we no longer trust anything they say or anything they claim. We don't even think they may not even know what their expenses are. So we're fed up with it. We want to point out that this fee increase is highly discriminatory, both in the way it was implemented and in its cost. It will create surplus people. It shuts out the poor, and that we hope that you will do whatever you can do to help us turn it around.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Recreation Park, like to say anything else? When is the next meeting your commission's having?
Regina Adams, Executive Officer, Recreation and Parks. This item will be back before the Recreation and Parks Board of Commissioners on January 5th, and there will be a comprehensive report on each of the gardens and recommendations for our board at that time to take action on.
And does each of the gardens have a water meter that is directly separate from what is the park?
No.
Because if we define that, I think there could be a partnership, because I think I heard that from some of the public comment. There could be a partnership. They can understand that. So I will plan to be there as well to articulate a voice. I thank everybody for coming down, and we wanted to hear this. This is action that we can take action on, and the Parks Commission, by charter, has some separation from the council and can act independently. I think Mr. Wesson made a good point about when he went to a park facility, he saw it posted. It should be posted where people see it everywhere. And I also do know and believe in you and your leadership that we have to do a better job in order to inform the public, which I know all of us want to do. With no other questions, Madam City Attorney, anything else? Okay, Mr. Clerk, I thank everybody for their participation today. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.